After spending massive amounts of hours playing the PTR, as well as doing intense research on this subject, I finally did it. I came. And then I compiled this extensive guide covering everything you want to know about the new season. I'll of course provide timestamps in the description, but I highly encourage you to watch the entirety of this video due to important reasons, which will remain undisclosed for now. And this is what we'll cover: how to level up with ease, the new season theme and what you'll get out of it, seasonal journey rewards and why they're not dog shit anymore, Endgame. Yeah, that's a thing now, how to craft the best items. Some new stat caps that you need to be aware of so you don't waste all of your materials LMAO. Some new uniques and items, the fat guy and his friends. What the best builds are, and how to gear up quickly. Is D4 in fact bad, or is that just a myth? All right. That's a lot, but we'll go through it with ease. And we'll start with the leveling. I have a complete leveling guide on my channel somewhere, but here's an even quicker guide. Go do Hell Tides. Yeah, they're now available in World Tier 1 and 2, and not only that, they're actually fun now. So do that, then do some Nightmare Dungeons when you're in the later World Tiers, and most importantly, have some goddamn fun. And talking about leveling, the new seasonal theme and journey becomes important. For the theme, you'll be cucked by some iron wolves or whatever. What's important, however, is the rewards that they'll grant you. So you'll need to do some shady shit for them to start the season off, and then you'll get access to this board of epicness. The especially nasty one is that they'll provide you with a resplendent spark, which you can shove up your ass. Or better yet, use to craft a uber unique later on. And for the seasonal journey, you know that thing you've most likely been ignoring because the rewards was absolute dog? Yeah, that one. This will now provide you with some gear and aspects that are actually useful. The ones that you'll get from these are Dust Devils for the brain-dead barb enjoyers, Pulverize for the fat woodchopper, Incinerate for the hentai-worshipping neckbeards, Minion Stuff for the edgy cringelords, and Barrage for the thin-as-fuck rogue. Now I'll give Blizz some cred here, as these builds are pretty goddamn good for leveling, except for Incinerate perhaps. That one can definitely suck a dick. And if you're new to the whole seasonal thing, don't worry. All you need to do is press U on the keyboard to get the seasonal journey up and put on your big boy glasses to read what needs to be done. If you're on console, all you need to do is to get yourself a PC at Best Buy or whatever, and while you're at it, get one for me as well because mine fucking sucks. Alright, let's check out the endgame next. Because that's what we are all here for. That, and my flawless jokes, of course. Oh, one sec. Sorry about that. So, the endgame, namely this bumhole-looking thing appropriately named the Pit. Okay, so how do you access the bumhole? Well, first, you need to obliterate a Tier 46 Nightmare Dungeon and gather up some materials called rune shards. You'll get these from pretty much every endgame activity, however, so you won't have to worry about that. Unless you suck and keep failing, the pit runs. When you've done some endgame and a Tier 46 Nightmare Dungeon, you can head on over to Serigar. There you'll find a gaping asshole waiting for you. And why in the hell would you want to do this? Well, that's because the materials you get in there, which you need for crafting. So not only will you gather a raging addiction and abysmal credit score trying to push the highest tiers, you'll also get something useful out of it. The materials that you obtain are needed for masterworking. Okay, Mr. Big Dick Senpai, Paragaming, teach me your ways of working. Nah, my friend, that's just what the system is called, masterworking. The materials found are abducites, ingoliths, and neat iron, or simply blue, yellow, and legendary pit materials. You then take these materials to the blacksmith and start upgrading your gear, or shove them up your ass or whatever, I don't really care. This is pretty much how you used to upgrade items in the blacksmith, but they're now more powerful and contains more steps. And fun. Right, guys, we like to have fun over here. When it comes to the materials, the obducets are used for upgrading your items the first 4 tiers, ingoliths for the second, and neat iron for the third, all for a total of 12 tiers. Every upgrade grants a 5% bonus to the stats on the piece, except for every 4th upgrade, which grants an additional 20% bonus. Now you're probably like, wait, what? An extra 20% bonus? That's pretty goddamn busted. And you're absolutely correct. That is busted. The stat that gets an extra upgrade is random, and if you get the wrong one, you can simply press this button and go again. This is expensive as hell, though. If you're a German barb enjoyer, you'll probably make sure to get all the perfect masterwork stats. And if you're an actual mortal, well, there's always more classes to play. The other part of crafting that you need to know about is tempering. And I don't mean tempering taxes, I'm talking about slamming on insane new gear affixes. While out in the world and killing stuff or progressing through the seasonal journey, you'll get these tempering manuals. And spoilers, they're fucking busted. So how do you slam them on then? Well, first thing you'll do when you get one of these manuals is to simply click it. It will then end up in the Codex of Power, and you'll have it forever. And in case you've been living under a rock, same goes for all legendary affixes you gather. Simply salvage them, and you'll have it in the Codex of Power. All right, and then what? Now you'll head on over to the blacksmith, go to tempering, and then you can select 2 tempering manuals to imprint from 2 different categories. If there's anything you take away from this video, it should be this. Don't brick your items trying to get shitty affixes. What do I mean by that? You see here that you can only temper a fixed amount of times. Sorry, wrong clip. Here is the correct one. When you're out of tempering rerolls, you're fucked. So make sure you know what tempering stats you're looking for, so you can spend the rerolls on the most important one. For example, here's what you can get as a rogue. Chance to shoot out double the amounts of rapid fires out of your dick, or some marksman crit damage. The first one doubles your damage, and the second one is in the additive damage category, or in other words, near useless. So always focus on the important stat before bricking your item. And in Season 4, you have these kinds of items. Items with greater affixes on them, which is an item with a 1.5 stat multiplier. You can get these affixes on all your slots, except for the tempered stat, and they're rare as hell. So yeah, don't brick that shit. Also, for someone that spends a shitload of time trying out different builds, it can definitely be worth it to save a few tempering rerolls if you've got a sick item, in case you want to re-roll the important ones for another build later. Okay, so that's tempering. Before we leave the crafting, I'd just like to throw in 2 things for the shit noobs that has been MIA for the last few months, and that is, there's an extremely important vendor that you need to consider, the Obol guy. He now sells you 925 items, and trading a pack of brownies for a piece of gear will be well worth the investment, as this is now the best way to target farm-specific pieces. And on top of that, enchanting gear, i.e. re-rolling affixes, now has a gold cap. So you won't have to spend all of your hard-earned cash on buying gold anymore, and should instead spend it on becoming a Paragaming member, obviously. Alright, and next on the agenda we have some new stat caps that you need to be aware of. What do I mean by stat caps? Well, in case you're a cringe-gen alpha skibidi zoomer, then you probably think I'm bullshitting. But I'm talking about the maximum number in a stat that you can grab before it's useless. And in Season 4, they're changing 3 important stats: cooldown reduction, armor, and size affixes. Cooldown reduction will be capped out at 75%. This was not a problem before, but since you can now masterwork your items, it could be achievable. Important to note though, this is only from gear, so upgrading skills in the skill tree to reduce their cooldown should still work, for example. For armor, the cap previously was based on the level of enemies above you, which meant that you needed a massive amounts of armor fighting level 200 monsters in the pit, for example. This is now changed, and the new cap is 9,230. Anything above that is fucking useless. And lastly, size affixes. Size does indeed matter in Season 4, and previously, you could get massive amounts of its size increased on weapons and gear. What this allowed, for example, was pull in the entire state of Alabama as a necro, effectively promoting incest. And this is something Blizzard couldn't allow, and so they tuned it down to 100% maximum from gear. Same goes for these chance to cast twice affixes as well, by the way, but that should be more obvious. Okay, now I promise to talk a bit about the new uniques and items coming in Season 4. And spoilers. They're nasty as hell. Or well, some of them are. And some are useless. Let's check them out and where to get them, as there's a bunch of them and you're obviously a busy man or woman that wants to touch grass and shit. I'll try to focus on the important, build-defining ones. Firstly, we have two strong uniques and aspects that all classes can use. The uniques being Tyrael's Might and Yen's Blessing. Both are extremely useful, and Tyrael's Might is basically an artillery shrine, but worse. Perfect for blasting down hell tides, for example. Yen's Blessing drops from the COVID-bearing Bat Lord Zir and is actually pretty damn strong. It's also getting a buff to its cooldown, and you'll definitely look for this as a barb, for example, to reduce shout cooldowns. Having damage reduction on boots is nasty as hell as well, as it's no longer available on gear. And for aspects, we have aspect of Frosty Strides and Concussive Strikes. When it comes to Frosty Strides, there's a whole sorcerer build relying on this aspect, for example, and it's quite possibly the best sorcerer build unless it's been gutted as of watching this video. The Concussive Strikes aspect is also insanely nasty, as it's both crowd control and increased damage, and this aspect can be imprinted on boots as well. But now you're probably like, but don't we need movement speed there? Oh, my beautiful friend, you're absolutely correct, but you will be able to cap it out just by using the new tempering system. And that's why you'll be seeing this aspect in most of my builds from now on. Okay, let's check out the class-specific gear now, and we'll start with the Barb. I tested both of the new uniques on the PTR, and they were unfortunately dog shit. And unless you're running a double swing build, you'll most likely not use them. Aspect of Fierce Winds, however, is absolutely amazing, and 100% mandatory if you're going to play a Dust Devil build in Season 4. Shouting out Dust Devils is fine and all, but the gold here is in the size increased part. We're getting 1% extra damage per size increased, which means we'll be able to double the Dust Devil damage, and that's on top of already getting 20% damage from the aspect. So yeah, pretty damn strong. Alright, on to the Fat Woodchopper. These are the uniques you're getting. Earthbreaker and Wildheart Hunger. Throw the Earthbreaker in the trash for a sec and check out the Wildheart. God damn, this one's nasty as hell. As long as you're shape-shifting between forms, you'll be getting a 30% multiplier for your damage. On top of that, the stats, except for perhaps overpower, are insanely strong. How about giving this to us brain-dead Barb enjoyers instead, Blizz? We definitely have been having it tough the last couple of seasons, El Mao, and for finding it, you'll be able to get it from the Perverted Bat. And then we have aspect of Fevered Mauling. If you're able to cook up a build using Maul, let me know, because this fucking sucks. Now it's time for the true winner of Season 4. The Cringe Lord Emo, aka Necro. For uniques, we're getting the Eben Piercer and Kruer's Embrace. The Eben Piercer was unfortunately completely bugged on the PTR, but it should still be strong for Blight Shadow over time builds. We'll have to test it out and see. You'll get it from Grégoire if you want to test it out. And Blood Surge is pretty dog in Season 4, except for leveling where it's possibly the strongest build. But still, this unique is an endgame item, and I wouldn't go out of my way to grab it unless you're a perverted vampire. The new aspect, however, a Photic aspect, is absolutely amazing. Shadow damage minion builds are absolute S tier in Season 4, and by using this, you can both make your skeletal mages not be useless, but also grant you a bunch of stagger for bosses. Next on the agenda are for us rogue enjoyers. We are not looking great for Season 4, but there are a few strong builds still. For example, Rapid Fire and Barrage, and both are getting new uniques and aspects. The Scoundrel's Kiss is an absolute must-have for the Rapid Fire build, allowing it to deal AoE damage. You'll get this one from the Perverted Bat as well. For Barrage, Aspect of High Velocity is the new aspect. It's not amazing, but still stronger than most other aspects out there, which is pretty dank. You'll most likely get this one from the Seasonal Journey as well, but don't quote me on that one. And of course, Rogues are also getting 2 uniques, and the other one is Saboteur's Ring. I'm sure someone will cook something up for this one, but for now, throw it in the trash. Talking about cooking, the devs has been cooking real good over at Blizzard when it comes to Sorcerer, so we definitely need to take a look at these items one by one. First, we have the Fractured Winterglass. This unique made frozen orb go from a mediocre skill into possibly the best build in the game. If you've seen any PTR footage, it has since been nerfed, but should still be extremely strong. So what has changed? Well, previously Aspect of Frozen Orbit triggered the effect, granting it 2 extra conjurations per cast. The chance to shoot out frozen orbs has also been reduced, so a 3x nerf or so. But considering the build was speedrunning all content, I'd say still pretty hecking strong. This too drops from the Perverted Bat. And then we have the Flameweaver gloves dropping from Grégoire. Of course, this was also bugged, but it's still what enables Firebolt builds to function. So it's definitely getting a Paragaming thumbs up. Alright, and then we have 2 new aspects. Wait, what? 2 aspects for Sorcerer and only 1 for all the rest? What gives? I don't know, but unless Barb gets 10 new aspects for Season 5, I'll fucking riot. And first, we have Aspect of Tina's Destruction. Oh, okay, I see now one is absolutely useless. That's why they're getting 2 aspects. Buff this like 10 times, and then we'll talk about dropping Teleport and Frost Nova Ulmao. Flamethrower's aspect is pretty goddamn dank, however. Incinerate may be a cool skill, but it's been absolute dog since launch. But in Season 4, it's actually playable and quite fun. This is partly due to this aspect and a bunch of buffs, and you'll most likely get this one just by progressing the Seasonal Journey, so that's fun. Well, goddamn, that was a lot of items. If you're still here, then you're a based king legend. And next on the agenda is something extremely important. And that is, of course, the fat guy and his crew of diabetics. So what's going on with these guys in Season 4, apart from high blood glucose levels and high risk of cardiovascular disease? A bunch, I'd say. For starters, we're now able to summon way harder versions of these bosses. And why would you want to do that? Well, by killing one of the extra hard, tormented bosses, you'll get a resplendent spark. You're free to do anything you want with this thing, but I'd suggest using it to craft an Uber unique. You need 4 of these things, and you'll get an additional 2 by killing Uber Liliths and completing the seasonal theme. So PayPal me your salary, and I'll make sure to boost you through it. Another reason that you want to kill these bastards is that they grant 5 times the rewards and only requiring 3 times the materials. And what's the conversion rate there? I don't know, like a gazillion. And now to how you actually summon these bosses. It's quite simple. It's exactly as you've been doing in the previous 2 seasons. You gather the materials from doing Hell Tides, Whispers, Legion events, etc. Then you kill some bosses, progress the ladder, and rip Duriel a new one. The only difference being that you need Stygian stones to summon them, and these materials are found by completing the pit. Blizz is also making some of the bosses non-useless by incorporating Andariel into the Uber boss mix. So now you have Grégoire and Varshan to summon the fat guy, and you'll have the Perverted Bat and the Ice Beast to summon Andariel. Oof, that's a lot to keep track of for my Zug Ooga Booga brain dead whirlwind spinning barbarian brain. But don't worry, just watch this video over and over until you get it, And for all the shit noobs, let's quickly take a look at where you find all these bosses again. Here you find Varshan. Grégoire is here, and then you go here to summon the diabetic fatty. You kill Zia here, and to summon Beast in the Ice, you'll need to craft one of these nightmare sigils, and then you take your acquired materials and summon Andariel here. Goddamn great job, friends. Let's take a look at some amazing builds now, just to get you started with the season. I've talked about the stuff you get for free just by completing the seasonal journey, so let's check them out a bit more and how you can use them to progress into Endgame. And we're of course starting with the best possible class, the Ooga Booga. As previously stated, we're getting Dust Devils, and in the footage from Blizz, it was for a Dust Devil double swing build. So that's dank as fuck, as it's already the build that I've posted on the channel, so just progress the seasonal journey and you're good to go, basically. When it comes to progressing into Endgame, however, it's not as clear. This is due to Dust Devils receiving a massive nerf, and us not knowing how well it will perform in the Endgame. But don't cry yet, you goddamn bitch, because Barb has so many insane builds in the new season, so much that you'll be occupied with trying builds for months. The main tip I can give here is, if you get gear with greater affixes on them that you're unsure if they're great, just save them. They can possibly be used for some build, and my top pick in the new season that I'll be blasting is the Bash build. Bash already had solid base damage and a bunch of basic skill affixes, but there was a massive issue. It only did damage to one target. Now that's no problem anymore, as we can imprint Cleave into the mix for thousands of additive damage. So as you're progressing, definitely make sure to save gear with ranks to basic skills and Bash, because you'll need them in the end game. For the Fat Woodchopper, Pulverize is the gear you're getting. This build is amazing for leveling, and even without the free gear, is the build that you'd most likely be running for leveling. Here's the downside, though. Pulverize is shit for the endgame. If you want to play the best possible build, then you're looking to progress into a tornado-shooting werewolf build. Other than farming the Fat Diabetic for Tempest Raw, there's a stat that is beyond broken that you need to look out for, and that is damage to close enemies. If you see this stat as a greater affix, preferably along with Spirit Regan, attack speed, or crit chance, well then, you're just made bank. For the hentai-worshipping neckbeards, you are getting Incinerate gear. I'm sure this will be fine for leveling, but you'll for sure want to progress into an actual build in the endgame. Here's the problem with Sorcerer in Season 4, though. You have too many builds to choose from, just as with Barb. Fortunately for you, most builds are using pretty much the same stats, and Sorcerer is probably the class that uses the most amount of uniques in their builds. I'll be rocking a Frozen Orb build, however, and my main tip there is to look for Frozen Orb ranks on gloves. If you are lucky enough to get this as greater affix, well then you can do two things. 1, go fuck yourself, and 2, sell it for a bazillion gold. For third class, we have the edgy cringelord Necro. This is the absolute easiest one to progress with. While we do not know exactly what affixes you'll be getting just yet, they should all be minion-related. And well, minions are Omega busted in Season 4. And even better, it barely matters what gear affixes you're running. If you've seen any Necromancer builds up until now, however, you'll see ranks to Golem Mastery, for example. These are gone in Season 4 and should end up on amulets instead. If you do, however, happen to find these stats on an amulet, well then you've made bank. And lastly, the Rogue. This one's also extremely simple. You'll be getting Barrage gear, and not only is quite possibly the best leveling build, it's also an absolute top-tier endgame build. So you can with ease run this until level 100. If you're looking for something to progress towards, however, then I'd also look for Rapid Fire gear, as this will be either the best or at least top 3 of Rogue builds, depending on what all the amazing neckbeard creators out there able to cook together. Alright, that's the builds. There's but one thing left, the answer to the most important question of them all. Yeah, you've been waiting for this the entire video. So, Is D4 in fact bad? Of course not, it's fucking good.